Okay, hello, and welcome to the Book Troop live show for the month of April, where we read Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson. And I am joined here by my friends Jordan and Steph, who were so kind enough to join me on this Sunday afternoon. And, Jordan just let us know that she's traveling right now, which I'm like, wow, like, that's really cool. So thank you for being here. We are going to be discussing this book during this live show. And at the beginning, we will be doing, spoiler free. If you haven't read the book, no worries. We will let you know far before we get into spoilers. But if you are not familiar with Jordan and Steph, I will have them introduce themselves. Both of their channels are linked down in the description, by the way, if you want to go and check them out. But yeah, do you want to just introduce yourself? Maybe tell us, what you typically read and what you do on your channels and things like that.
Sure, I can go first. I'm Jordan. My channel is Sorry Booked Solid. I normally read a variety of genres, typically realistic fiction. So I usually say pretty much anything except for like fantasy. And I love to do reading vlogs. I do a lot of like book of the month vlogs, aardvark reading vlogs, NetGalley arcs, things like that. And otherwise just your standard booktube content. Yeah.
Love it.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from Stephanie Bookish, and I pretty much read anything. I'll try anything, but my favorite genres are fantasy and horror, and romance has been really creeping into my life for the last 2 years. And yeah, I pretty much do reading vlogs. I try to do sit down videos. It just does not come out for me. So I pretty much stick to like just typical reading vlogs and like lifestyle-y type of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, Steph has really nice cozy vlogs if you like the like cozy aesthetic. And her vlogs are perfect for that. And yeah, and Jordan, I love the book of the month and the aardvark vlogs that you do because I'm always so curious, especially if they're more like backlist picks. I get so curious of like which one should I prioritize and like which ones are good.
Yeah,
so those are very helpful. Awesome. Well, thank you for introducing yourselves. And if you are just now joining us, we are discussing Tell Me What You Did. If you have not yet read the book, then Jordan is going to pitch us a non-spoilery synopsis so that you can hear all about it. But I would love to know if you did read the book with us this month. Maybe you can put a little house emoji on the cover, or house emoji in the chat. And then maybe if you haven't yet read the book or if you DNF'd it, maybe you can put like a blue heart in the chat just so I can get a visual for who's here because they've read it. And Jordan, if you wouldn't mind just doing like a non-spoilery synopsis.
Of course. I just finished this today and I read it like while I was traveling. So it's nice and fresh. It should be pretty fresh. So this is an adult thriller, sort of a mystery thriller. It follows our main character named Poe, who is a podcast host. And she has like the #1 crime podcast in the nation. And the premise of the podcast is that she has guests that she brings on in interviews, and they're anonymous, but they are able to confess to any crimes that they've committed that they just want to get off their chest. And it's anonymous, but they still are going on the podcast kind of at their own risk because if the fans of the podcast end up finding out their identity and, reporting them to the police or whatever, they can still be arrested and convicted, which has happened. But she finds that people are still willing to do it because whether it's like the ego coming out, wanting to just, brag about the crimes that they've gotten away with, or sometimes I think it's more guilty conscience that they want to come in and air out. So that's what she does. And the premise of this book and where it kicks off is she gets a guest who joins the podcast and he confesses to a crime that's really close to Poe's life. And I feel like that's the best non-spoilery way to pitch the book. The back of the book does say a little bit more. Personally, I feel like that kind of ruins some of the only twists in the book. It's getting into my thoughts already, but that's, I feel like, the best, like, truly non-spoilery pitch for the book.
That's great. No, I appreciate it.
Anything I missed?
No, that was really good. And I think it's so true about how like sometimes thrillers can get a little bit too specific with like the premise, or like sometimes they can get a little bit spoilery with the premise. So I do agree. I love that pitch.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, well, I think we're just gonna jump right into ratings before I get into the more of the questions, just because I love to know right off the bat how's everybody feeling about this one, and I don't actually know how either of you feel about it, so it's that extra exciting factor that I can't wait to hear. So while we're revealing our ratings in the chat, if you want to put your ratings for this book, what you gave this book out of 5 stars, or if you DNF'd it, you can let us know that too. But why don't we kick it off with Steph? Why don't you tell us like what you rated it, and then like just a non-spoilery like 1 to 2 sentences why.
Okay, I rated it 2 stars.
Okay.
And the best way to describe it is that it was very redundant throughout the entirety of the book, and I felt like the actual major twist was not as like explosive or worth the time that you put into the story.
Okay, I can see that. And then Jordyn.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think I'm gonna give it 2 stars.
Oh wow! Okay.
I was hopeful at the beginning. It started off pretty strong, and I was holding on to like a 3-star, and then I totally agree. We got to like the big twist, and I was like, "That's it.
Yeah,
that's what we're going with." So I landed at 2 stars. I mean, I do think like I could be swayed or pulled, or I could maybe appreciate some things throughout the book a little bit more with some discussion, but I was pretty disappointed.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I mean, good to know you're both on the same page. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, but I'm also kind of like, I don't feel super passionately about this one. Like I could be pulled in either direction really, based on the discussion too. But I do agree, like I think the beginning was really strong for me, and I actually thought like, oh my God, this has the potential to be a new favorite. Like I was really, really liking the setup of this, and I thought the idea of the podcast was really cool, I thought. But then yeah, I was like, why is this book like 400 something pages long? Like it was just so long, and I was like, can we just get to the point? And then I agree that the ending was not worth it for me. So I do agree with a lot of those things. But one of the questions I wanted to ask before we kind of get into the book is, do you listen to true crime podcasts? And like, if this were a real podcast, like, do you think this is something that you would tune in and like listen to or be curious about, or what do you think?
I really don't consume true crime. I never have. I've never gotten into the podcasts or anything. I could totally see this being a popular thing, though it's a really weird like legal thing to me. Like how I don't really understand like how it, how she's on good terms with the police. I don't know. It but I understand the intrigue for sure. And for me, I actually personally, I prefer like true crime commentary and reading books and even sometimes podcasts and things that talk about like the phenomenon of true crime more so than I enjoy consuming any true crime itself.
Yeah, interesting.
I go back and forth. I used to enjoy My Favorite Murder a lot.
Yeah.
And I felt like the reason I liked that so much was because they did go into the commentary about specifically like women often being the subject of crimes. But it gives me too much anxiety to like consume it too often. So sometimes I get like this itch to listen to true crime, but my favorite type of true crime is like catfishing and blue collar crime.
Yeah, that's fun.
No murder.
Yeah. Not so much for me.
Yeah, I feel that. I know. I feel the same where like it kind of does make me anxious if I consume it like too often. But I went through like a phase, like it was like right after the pandemic, it was like 2021, where I was like consuming so much true crime. Like I got really, really into it for a while, and I was listening to like Morbid and like My Favorite Murder and like a lot of the big, true crime podcasts, and I was really enjoying it. But then I agree, it started to affect my like anxiety and just like, I don't know, I wasn't as passionate about it after that year. So like it's been a while since I've really gotten into it. But I do think if this were a real podcast, I do think I would like, just out of curiosity, like listen to it, just because I'm like, I think it's a really interesting concept, and I do think this would be like a thing, even though I don't know how it would work like legally. Like I don't understand, but I do think the concept of it is cool, because like she does mention in the book that like she has them like recorded on video, or like she's video chatting with them while it's happening, but the audience is only hearing the audio, and she said she'll never reveal the like video footage unless the police request it from her or whatever. So like there's a chance that these people could still get like found out and arrested for whatever they're doing. So I think it's kind of interesting, but I don't know how it would work legally, but I think it's kind of a cool concept.
Yeah, I liked the concept too. I thought it was interesting that she also destroyed the recordings after, was it like 6 months?
Yeah.
Which I also was like, how does that work?
Yeah. I don't know really why that time frame would be selected. Yeah, or why you wouldn't just, I guess, keep them always just in case. Like that seems like kind of protection for her. But at the same time, maybe she just doesn't want that on her, like on her conscience, or like just doesn't want to have that.
Yeah, it does feel very random timeline wise. And then one of the other questions before we really get into it is, have you read any other books from this author, or is this your first? And if you have, like, how do the others compare? Because I actually haven't read anything from this author before. This is my first one.
Yeah, I haven't either. First one for me too.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I wasn't sure because like I saw in the back too. There's even a picture of like all these other thrillers. And I'm like, oh my god, like
he has
like,
quite a few.
I know, like this author's published quite a bit, and I didn't realize for some reason when I started this, I thought maybe it was a debut, and then I flipped it open. I was like, oh my god, that's a list of like it's a list of stuff. So I didn't know if anybody in the chat has like read his other books and can tell us if this is like one of the better ones or if this is one of the worst ones. Like I don't know.
Yeah, but, and I'm sure it will come up later. But there's an author's note at the end where he says that one of the characters in this book is from one of his other books, and so that's interesting. Appears he has some fans that he's, appeasing with some like fan service, like bringing the character into this book. But
first maybe
I was just gonna say I love that comment because like same, can't lie.
Maybe last, real. Yeah, kind of give debut vibes. Maybe that's why I thought that. Yeah. So that's cool. And then one of the other questions too is, there are like QR codes throughout the book, which I don't know if you guys like noticed, but I was gonna ask, like, did you scan the QR codes while you were reading? I think there was only like 3 of them or maybe 4 of them.
Yeah.
But did you scan the QR codes while you were reading, or did you like notice them or care about them?
Yeah. You want to go, Steph? Did you?
I listened to it on audio, so I didn't know the QR codes happen. And then some people in my Discord were talking about the QR codes. So I looked up one of them and I was like, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I did look them up as I was reading them, and I have some major thoughts. I love the concept of it. I think that's a great idea to add another element to it, another medium to the book. I just don't think the execution was quite what he was going for. I don't know. It's also maybe just like content creators critiquing other like video content, maybe. So maybe some of the other, people in the chat have other opinions, but I was like,
there's a phone number you can call.
I feel like it was better in my head.
Yeah, I agree. I think like it feels cool in theory, but I agree that the actual things, I was like, this feels like a waste of time. Like I don't need this, but like it's really a cool concept though, I think. And I think it would be cool if more thrillers could do stuff like this. I love the fact that the acknowledgements was a video of the author kind of talking about the book. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really nice touch. But yeah, otherwise I think it was kind of like a cool idea that it was cooler in theory than it actually ended up being.
Did you watch all of them?
I watched all of them, yeah.
Okay.
There's only like 3, I think.
Yeah, there's only 3. They're pretty short. Yeah, and they're like, they're scenes that just happened in the book. Yeah. Which is also kind of a weird choice. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't even know if I can spoil the QR codes because like they weren't really, it was just kind of like a reenactment of like clips of the podcast.
Woman, like making videos, acting out as if she's Poe.
Yeah, it's like a woman on a webcam,
like
just
the
like
interview. Yeah, like the webcam, and then one of them is a scene where she's going to look at something on her bookshelves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Very low budget.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's a cool concept though, but yeah, I think I just needed a little bit more from that. But anyway, okay. Well, let's see. I guess let's go ahead and jump into spoilers now because we're about 13 minutes in. So I want to give us the time to talk about the spoilers. But I guess one of the things that we kind of already touched on is like, how did you feel about like the pacing of the story and the writing style just in general? Because I mean, something that I did like is that this book is like 100 chapters, and even though it's like over 400 pages, these chapters are so short and I thought that they were flying. So like, I did appreciate the pacing of the story, but I think for me, it was more like, it just started to feel so repetitive that that made the pacing feel slower, even though the chapters were short, if that makes sense. But like, how did you feel about like the pacing of the story and the writing style in general?
Yeah, I also liked the short chapters, and they had a lot of the like dun 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 type endings to them where, like he would say something that really makes you want to turn the page to keep reading, which typically I like that in thrillers. I know some people have some mixed feelings about them. So I like that. And one thing I thought was interesting on the pacing is I put orange tabs for the different parts of the book. So part 1 was whatever the first chapter or whatever, and then it goes to part 2. page 94, and then part 3 is page 197, and then the whole rest of the book is part 3. So like there's only parts for the first half of the book, and then it's the rest of the book. So I feel like that also contributed to the first half feeling fast paced, feeling
That's
like we were
true.
getting somewhere. And then all of a sudden the second half of the book was just like one slog to get through. And
Yeah.
I didn't get it, and I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that it was really fast paced and it was an easy book to get through in just like 1 or 2 sittings. But my problem was similar, where I felt like the first half, it had me on the edge of my seat. I was very interested in it. And then it was just like she was telling us the same exact things in different font. Because it was like, my mom was murdered in front of my eyes, and this man can't be the one who did it because I killed that man. And he said that like in 5, 6 different ways, and I was like, okay, but
yeah, and like over and over again, I should go to the police, I'm in danger, but I can't because I also murdered someone. Over and
then it was like we went to the live stream where he was like holding her hostage to like tell what she did, and it's like, yeah, we know, we're aware.
Yeah.
We've heard it a few times.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, it was that middle part that. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gabby.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it just killed me because, like, especially towards the end, I thought there was just so much repetition with the, like, should I do the live stream or should I not do the live stream? But what if I did do the live stream? And then what if we're on the live stream and then the police? And then it's just like so much repetition with the live show that I was just like, oh my God, I was getting really bored and frustrated with that.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, do I tell my dad? Do I tell kids? Should I tell them? They're gonna hate me. They're gonna think of me differently. And also, like, one of my least favorite things in the world with thrillers is an alcoholic main character. And so the fact that she like talked so much about drinking, and then her dad was like getting her drunk to tell him the story, I was like, what are we doing right now?
I know.
Yeah,
I thought it was
heavy.
It was weird too how it was almost like set up to be like a plot twisty moment when she finally revealed to her dad what happened, when I'm like, we already know. I'm like, wouldn't this be so much more effective if we were finding out at the same time as her dad, and like we were getting the story at the same time? Because I just thought the writing choice was weird, because it was like, we already know this, so how is this like, I don't care about this conversation, you know, like, I don't know.
Well, it feels like,
go on.
Sorry. I feel like the two like reveals early on, which are that like this guy is saying that he killed her mom, and then the second reveal that she killed the guy that she thinks killed her mom. Like those are kind of the two like actual reveals early on that it talks about in the back of the book, which I feel like it shouldn't, because those are interesting to learn. But yeah, same thing. You kind of learn them 3 times, because you see her like do it on the podcast, and then she tells her dad, and then she tells Kip, or vice versa, whatever. So she like, makes those confessions herself 3 different times, and it's not surprising to us at any point because we already knew.
Yeah.
I think that's why the pacing feels so slow once you get to the second half, because everything that could have been a surprise to you, we've been told like 3 separate occasions. And so it's like, the indecision about going on the live show, the indecision to tell her dad and to tell the man that she loves about all of these things that she did, had we not known them already, or the fact that she was doing the live show, because that's like the 3rd chapter is that she's on the live show.
Yeah.
It would have been more edge of your seat, more surprising and twisty, but we knew everything so early on.
Yep, exactly. That's what I mean. We knew a lot, but nothing at the same time. But like, I agree. It's like, we already know she does the live shows. So, like, why do we have all these chapters for like debating it?
It was wild to me that like, so then the big twist about who he actually is, like, is he the guy or is he not the guy, happens in the last like 20 minutes of the book.
Right.
Like, wait a second, this isn't even like that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It really felt like we were building towards something incredible. Like, I'm like, okay, what is the reveal going to be? Because if you revealed these other 2 twists so early on, and those were like, would have been so surprising, you must be really holding out for something crazy.
Right? To any of the friends that DNF this, the big reveal at the end is that oh my god, she killed his brother. Wow.
Yeah, he is the brother.
And they were besties.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask, like, did you predict this? Because I literally wrote down in my notes, page 148, I was like, she killed his twin and or brother, because he literally says on the podcast, or like on the podcast or the live stream to her, he says something about my brother, like I grew up with a brother, and I was like, it's his fucking brother.
Yeah.
Like
immediately. Totally. I had that starred in my notes too. I was like, that seems like the solution here.
Yeah. I will say that I was like, at some point I did kind of like check out a little bit, so I didn't catch that. And my thought was that like the whole rat poison that she uses to kill the guy didn't like work out somehow, and he just is back, and that's why he looked so bad, as she said. But then when it was revealed that it was a brother, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because as soon as she was like, oh, he looks kind of familiar, but like not exactly. I'm like, it's because he's his fucking brother.
They're related.
Like, come on. Exactly. They're related.
Kind of like their brother.
Yeah, it's like the oldest trick in the book.
Oh, but I will say that I'm like really concerned, because at the very end, when she's like trying to go after him and kill him, he's like, there's another one of us. And I was like, oh my God, there's going to be a part 2.
No.
Yeah, that's like the last minute little hook. Like, I can write a sequel to this. Yeah, that,
I was gonna say, did you predict or like did you have any predictions while you were reading it? Because one of my predictions that never came to fruition was I thought that Kip was gonna be like the son of this guy, or like, you know, something like that. I thought Kip was gonna be like connected in some way, and he wasn't.
I totally thought Kip would be bad. Yeah. I was prepared to be annoyed about that, because like there's not that many characters in this book, so like it's not a surprise when some like the only other person you've been introduced to you know, is in on it or whatever. I didn't love Kip as a character separately, side note, so I just would have been kind of annoyed by that. But I did also think that, and then I thought along with like brothers, I also thought there might be a dad and son thing, because I remember her talking about how the guy in the interview like could have been 35 or could have been 55. Like she was not really sure like his age, just because his appearance was so strange. So I thought there was going to be something with that, of like she didn't really know how old he was, and that was, you know, maybe he was the son or something. And I don't know that would have been any more interesting, but I was like, oh, okay. So the most obvious choice.
I definitely thought Kip was going to be involved in some way, like that he was the son of one of those men, or I weirdly thought the dad gave weird vibes, so I thought maybe he was like the one who arranged the murder of the mom, and you were going to feel that like he arranged. I don't know. I was coming up with crazy scenarios.
That would have been more fun.
And then she was having an affair, like she was having the ongoing affair, and he had like one affair, and he said something about like what did he say? Like the day after was twice as bad as the day of the affair was fun, or something like that. So he regretted it immediately. So I could see him having some kind of grudge.
And it was weird, like how he just, the dad was sus to me, because when she reveals everything to him, he's kind of like, all right, want to have another drink? He just was like not phased at all. And then just his behavior was so odd to me. And I also didn't understand, some of their conversations were very odd and off. Because, like, I don't know why he just suddenly was like, and I had an affair, and it was the worst time of my life. Okay, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book had a little bit of that going on, because it was similarly, well, Kip didn't have a crime to confess, but he kind of just dumped on her, like, all his trauma at once, too. It was like, thanks for sharing. Here's my, like, all my secrets.
Also, I love that Jonathan brought up the hate for cats, because I was so upset. This author must hate animals, because he called his dog dumb so many times, and like and then the cat. Okay. I was so afraid of those animals.
Yeah, what's up with that? Also, Jan's comment, I thought the whole thing was going to be a stunt from the police to get her to confess to killing a man in New York. That's a cool idea.
Yeah,
like, I feel like the ending, it could have had more layers, you know? Because it's like the ending, it's just like, oh my God, it turns out it's his brother. And like, that's it, you know? Where like, I wanted so much more. I was like, okay, this is like the start of the twist at the end. And I thought we were going to get so much more. I thought I was going to be like, oh my God, and Kip's like his cousin or something. And then, oh my God. And then,
well, you know, it's all a big conspiracy. Yeah, all against no.
Yeah, even when she was in jail and like is the woman's name Alice that she talked to?
Yeah.
When she came, I was like, oh my God, is something wild gonna happen with this woman? Like she's gonna say, I'm the one who slept with your dad and I helped kill your mom or something.
Oh my God.
And then nothing happened with her. Well, I mean,
Dude.
yeah, she wanted to help her, which is great. And then when Poe just like dances at the end and she's like, yeah, everything's gonna be all right. I was like,
wow, what was up with that?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, didn't she say she got 14 months? Like that's pretty darn short for
I know. And I was wondering why, because I'm like, is it because
premeditated murder?
Yeah, I'm like, why was it so short? Is it because she like stopped a serial killer or something and they like
I think so. That's what she said. Yeah, she was able to negotiate it because of that.
Which is wild to me.
And like she's allowed to keep doing this podcast, which is so it opens up so much like messiness. Like what so in the name of justice, you could just do whatever you want now to the people that you interview. Like I actually would have liked going back to that, like what if the police would have been in on it thing. Then you could get into the commentary of like the police don't like this podcast situation. Like you can't just anonymously confess your crimes and then like get more notoriety because of that. Like that is not okay. So that would have been great if it was a big takedown for Poe.
Yeah.
And like her still doing the podcast in jail. Like what?
Yeah, because for anybody who DNF'd, she reveals that it was his brother that she killed, and it's like she gave him rat poison, and then he didn't like die immediately, so she had to like suffocate him with a pillow or something like that, and then after that, so it's like it's his brother that's been coming after her, and you find out that this guy that she killed was a serial killer. So it's like, I mean, I guess good for her for, killing the serial killer. But then at the end, he's like, she confesses to the crime and then she gets 14 months in prison at the end, which is 14 months, even though she like, killed a man. And then the book ends just kind of with her, she gets out of prison. She's still with Kip at the very end of this book. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of a basic, simple ending,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask too, like, how did you feel or about Poe as a character? Because I think one of my gripes with her was that I felt like her personality was very inconsistent, because I feel like sometimes she would be trying to come across as like this sweet little innocent butterfly, like I could never even harm an ant or whatever, and then at times she'd be like, I've killed before and I'll kill again. I'm like, whoa, like what? Like her personality just kind of felt all over the place, and I just didn't buy her as a character,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you feel about her? Did you like following her perspective like the entire book, or
I didn't mind her perspective, because like I don't know who else's perspective I would have wanted in the book. Like hers obviously makes the most sense, and I thought it was an interesting perspective. But I totally agree about her like kind of wish-washy personality. And also I noticed a couple things were like introduced as hobbies of hers or personality traits of hers and then just never referenced again. Like she talked about how in order to kill her mom's murderer, she like got into this whatever she called it, like practical shape or whatever. She like started working out because she wanted to be able to attack this guy and actually take him down. And I was like, surely that's going to come back, because now she's in this great shape. But then at the end, she tells her dad, and he's the one who kicks the guy's ass. So like she didn't even like get to use her practical fitness or whatever. That's and then another thing, she mentioned like a book club very randomly in one scene. She was like, I'm part of this book club, and we have this acronym and this phrase where she says the too stupid to live or whatever, TSTL or whatever. She's I know I'm being too stupid to live right now because I'm not going to the police. And like it was like 2 pages about this book club that was not important.
That's so
relevant.
True. That's so true.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I agree with you that like I don't know who else's perspective we could have followed that made sense with the story, but I didn't like Poe as a character, and I struggled like generally with men writing women characters. It's not that I don't think that it could be good. A lot of times though it ends up like this, where there's a lot of like shallowness, or they don't have a personality outside of specific things. And like Jenny said, her whole personality throughout this entire book was that she had a podcast and murdered a man. She would
like,
do it
did
again.
She ever go to therapy for what she like? Even if her dad didn't know that she saw the murder, like she still like walked up to a burning house with her mom inside. Is like her cover story. I feel like that deserves some therapy.
Yeah, well, that's what's wild to me about that whole situation when they actually like tell all of the stuff that was happening. When she talks about like even her mom having an affair and the sex scene that she walks in on, it's very disturbing, like the way that she talks about it and the way that she's like comprehending the scene as what she was like 13, and she's like talking about the way she talked about the scene just really like disturbed me. And then on top of that, don't you think, like Jordyn said, your child would need some sort of therapy or help? Just the simple fact that her mother got murdered.
Yeah, something beyond a podcast, surely.
Yeah. It's like she was trying to just keep it under wraps and like she didn't want anybody to ever know about what she witnessed. But as far as I can recall, I do think she actually did kill the guy that killed her mother, right? Like that was right because he was the serial killer. So I'm pretty sure she did end up killing the guy that did kill her mother, but then, you know, on the podcast, it was his brother that was like coming after her to try to like get revenge for his brother.
Because they were like best friends.
Also, the serial killer one, would tell the other one like all the details about what he would do or whatever. So he, like they had the secret code or whatever they said for how he would describe the crimes. And then when Poe killed him, the brother was like, oh wait, my brother isn't visiting me in jail anymore. Like it must have been this girl that he was just about to go on a date with. So then he went after Poe because he figured that she killed his brother, and he just missed his jail chats with his best brother.
Yeah, all the like code names were kind of interesting when he would like use like the names of like a serial killer or something as his name on like the dating apps or whatever, and he'd
unhinged. Like I would never, if I matched with someone, I'd be like, never mind.
Never mind. What?
I'm good.
Yeah. But I was gonna ask too about Alice as a character. Like, did you like? Because I think this is the character that's apparently featured in one of his other books, and I feel like it's kind of obvious that she's featured in another book because like her story was kind of like super compelling, I guess, because you know it said she had survived getting stabbed like multiple times and there was like people stalking her and like she had this whole story. So it's like I feel like it was kind of weird to include her in the story because I feel like we only got like little bits and pieces and I was like, who is this person, like what? And then I feel like her trust with her was almost like immediate in a way that felt really weird to me because I was like, I don't know this person. Like clearly your audience, or you think your audience like knows this person, so like you like we're supposed to trust that she's safe to talk to, I guess. But like I found it weird how Poe is just like dumping everything to her and I was like, who the fuck is this? Like
she served no purpose other than to be like, fight as hard as you can or whatever. Like you're gonna get through this. I got through like 2 different stabbing attempts. Like, you can do this.
She felt like she did not want to be there. When Poe was around her, she's like, oh my God, this woman again. But I will say that like because we didn't get as much of her backstory and like what exactly happened to her besides surviving these stabbings, I was like, okay, I kind of want to know what happened to you. So it's interesting that this is the character that was featured before because I did feel like it was really I don't know. I was like, why are we even talking about this? There's nothing here that we're learning about this character.
It did feel a little bit random. Also, I don't know if Alice was supposed to be like the fictional version of the Slender Man thing, but I did notice that there was like a similarity with with like what happened to her in the Slender Man case, but I don't know for sure. Because apparently she's from another book. Yeah.
So read her book to find out probably.
But that's what I mean. I feel like if you've read this other book and you know Alice, then you'll probably get so much more out of this. But it's like just having read this book, I'm like, who the fuck is this and why should we trust her? Like what?
Why do you keep telling me you should survive these stabbings, but you're not telling me what happened?
Yeah, like I need more information, okay? Also, yeah, is that a plot hole that the podcast guy knew every detail about the relationship with the mom, even though he was in jail, like the word code, the last thing he said to Poe before fleeing? I don't know.
So that's what they were saying, like his brother would visit him in jail. So like the brother on the podcast went to jail because he covered up for one of his brother's crimes. It was like I forget what the crime was, like robbery gone wrong or something like that the serial killer brother did, but the other brother was like, I'll take this one for you, brother. So he goes to jail and the serial killer one keeps coming to jail to visit him, to tell him about all these ladies that he's dating and that he's killing, and they're using their code words or whatever to talk about it, you know, when they're under surveillance and things like that. And so he would have told his brother about everything that happened with Poe's mom. including apparently the safe word and everything. So
yeah, and he even knows who Poe is, and the fact that Poe probably killed him because he went to jail to visit him and told him that he matched on a dating app with someone who had the picture of the mom. And he was like, oh, I went and saw her in person and it was the daughter. And he was like, oh, do you think the daughter knows? And he was like, I don't think so. She doesn't seem that smart. And then bam, he's dead. And so she was like, or he was like, oh, my brother stopped visiting me in prison, and like while I could see him getting taken out in another way, it just seems suspicious that the last person he saw was you.
Exactly, yes.
And then he even says on the podcast, like, I didn't actually know if you killed him. I wanted you to admit it so that I could kill you for killing him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that was actually one of the like scariest or like creepiest moments of the book for me is when you actually see the scene of like her mom getting killed and then the guy's just like murdering her and then he's like, she didn't say the safe word. I was like, ew, what the fuck?
I'm telling you, that whole, like, some of the ways that this author wrote specific scenes, I was like, you are sick, sir.
Yeah, that was freaky for me. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But it's one of the only scenes that was like really memorable for me out of everything. Also, I love that Carolina is like, no, I read both books and I hated it. Blatant self-promo. I mean, good to know. Yeah, good to know. And Jonathan let us know the book that Alice is in is called Mr. Tender's Girl. That is interesting.
Slender Tender.
Don't like that.
Interesting. Okay, well, let me see if I had anything else. Because I guess, well, one of the things I was going to ask was, like, if you didn't enjoy the ending, what do you think could have been changed? And I know we kind of touched on this because, like, I think there should have been more twists. I think there should have been more happening than just, like, oh my God, it's the brother. Like, there should have been multiple layers. And it's like, maybe I've just been reading so many thrillers that, like, I expect so much more from the ending of a thriller, especially one that's, like, 400 pages long. I'm like, you don't have anything more to say after 400 pages? Like, there's nothing more happening.
And so especially the one that's not a debut. Like we said, this guy's written a bunch of books.
Exactly. Like, this is an experienced author. So I just feel like there should have been more happening at the end. But I agree with what Steph said, actually, about the whole, like, the dad or, like, Alice being involved with the dad. Like, that would have been really cool. There was just a lot that could have happened at the end that was a missed opportunity, I think. But one of the questions I had was, will you read more from this author in the future? Possibly, or like, does it depend on the synopsis, or are you just like, no, I'm done?
Unless I have a good reason, unless something really blows up or another like book club or something. But
you mean you're not going to read Mr. Tender's Girl?
I will allow someone to spoil one of the books for me, but I will not be reading it.
I see. Okay, everybody's done. No, I'm good. I think it would depend for me. Like, I didn't hate this. Like, I do think if he came out with another book that sounded really intriguing and it was getting good reviews, I think I'd be interested. But I don't think I would like jump to make it a book club discussion again, kind of thing. You know, like that wouldn't be my first thought, but I want a good laugh. Oh my gosh. I thought there were some people that liked it in the chat.
I've seen a few people, have positive reviews, so I'm a little surprised too.
Yeah,
it's kind of a general roast right now.
That's the vibes I'm feeling.
So nervous coming into this live show that I was the only one that didn't like it, because like thrillers are really hard for me to like find ones that I love. So I was like, oh God, I'm gonna be the only one in this chat that gave this 2 stars.
No, you're good. Even if you were, I would actually really like, I love having the balance of so many different thoughts in the live show. So, so anyway, one of the last questions that I have is like, you know, if like you could compare this book to any other book or movie or TV show, like, do you have anything that you felt like you could recommend? Maybe if you didn't like this, but this other book has like similar themes or like anything like that. Anything you would want to compare this to at all?
So for me, I mentioned I like books that cover true crime, not necessarily like following a true crime case, but kind of having commentary on the genre of true crime. So a couple that come to mind, Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. I know we've both you had that as a book troop pick a couple years ago. That's sort of similar. It has a kind of a fictionalization of the Ted Bundy sorority house murders. And then another one that I wanted to recommend is Ashley Winstead's new book called This Book Will Bury Me. That one is about a girl who gets obsessed with true crime, and it basically shows like how she gets into the spiral of being obsessed with true crime, and she kind of becomes like an online sleuth for various true crime cases. And I really, really liked that book. So I think it was really well done, kind of covering the topic of true crime. And then the other book series that this one reminded me of is kind of more so because the characters in this book are Poe and Kip, and that just kept reminding me of Pip from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I just kept wanting to think it was Pip, and I feel like that's kind of a similar, there's a podcast element to that book series, and I had generally positive feelings about all three books in The Good Girl's Guide to Murder
I was gonna think of that one too.
The Good Girl's Guide to Murder kept coming to mind because the podcast element I feel like was done so well with that book. And then for reasons I cannot say, I feel that They'll Never Learn kept coming to mind when I was reading this book, and I actually loved that book.
Interesting.
So I think you could, if there were things about Poe that you wanted to be further explored, I think you could get that out of that book.
I would totally agree.
Yeah. Those were the two that kept coming to mind because I want to read, I think someone mentioned it, Listen for the Lie. I really want to read that one.
I was going to say that was, we had that for a book troop pick last year, and that was another like fun kind of podcast one, but that was another one that I ended up feeling kind of mid about, but that one is a little bit more popular than this one. Like a lot of people really like this one. Interesting. Yeah, I was going to say the only thing I really thought to compare this to, I saw a comment. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell is one that has a podcast, and it is kind of like messy and fun. And I think as far as like podcast thrillers go, I feel like they're a little bit like oversaturated. Like I feel like there's a lot of podcast thrillers these days, but I think this is one of my favorites out of all of the ones that I've read. So this was one of the only things that I really thought to compare it to, but I do think Listen for the Lie is a good comparison.
The other book that I really love that had a podcast element that I listened very early on when they were becoming popular was Sadie.
Oh, yeah.
I don't necessarily think that if you liked elements of this book that you would like that book, but I think if you like the podcast element and you do I thought the twist was pretty good in that one, and that it was unexpected for me. Some people were disappointed by it, but like I really, really enjoyed that book.
Yeah, nice. I forgot about that one. It's a throwback.
Yeah.
I love that. Amazing. Yeah, well, awesome. Let me see. Before we wrap it up, I just wanted to know if you had any, upcoming videos that you want to promote, or if you have any like recent 5-star reads that you want to like shout about from the rooftops.
I wish.
Anything you wish? Has it been a drought this year?
A little bit. Well, it's gotten a little better this year than the end of last year was awful. So I was like, okay, 2025, I gotta start reading books that like I think I'm actually gonna enjoy. So I'm having better luck. Let's see, for me, videos coming up. So I actually have a video. So I talked about early on how I mostly read realistic books. I don't really read fantasy. I did recently read ACOTAR and Fourth Wing for a vlog. So a fantasy vlog will be coming very soon to get a non-fantasy reader's take on some of the most popular fantasy books. But that's the only one I have immediate plans for. I'm participating in a readathon all May called Escape the Readathon. I'm a team leader for, so I'm excited for that, and hopefully we'll get lots and lots of books read.
Amazing. Very cool.
I'm trying to look and see what my last 5-star read is. I really recently loved First Time Caller. That was like one of my, that actually has like not podcast, but it's a radio show.
Yeah.
But it's romance.
No murder.
No murder, just romance.
Video wise, I think the only video, I've just been doing a lot of casual vlogs because I've been working so much and like working on things at my job. But I do a series called Read It Down, which is just me trying to tackle my own TBR. And so that's like a passion project for the last 3 years. And I've just recently changed like the format of it. So
nice.
Maybe look out for that.
Yeah, love that. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this book troop discussion. If you missed it, in May, we're going to be reading When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, which I'm very excited about because I love Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. So I'm very much looking forward to this one. And I hope that this one is a winner because so far it's not going great for the book troop this year.
Oh, no.
So far it's not going great. It's just been 3 stars or lower for me. So hopefully this one's a better time for me. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining for this month and for reading along with us. I appreciate it so much. And thank you to Jordyn and Steph for joining today really appreciate it as always. And again, both of their channels will be linked down below, so you can go and check them out. And thanks for reading along with us this month.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.